Congressional Republicans were reportedly caught off guard when President Trump attacked the CHIPS and Science Act during his joint address.
Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt, or any other reason you want to.
While members of the party instinctively stood up and clapped in the moment, there's actually little momentum among GOP lawmakers to repeal the bipartisan legislation. NBC News reports, though Republicans were aware of Trump's opposition to the legislation, senior lawmakers were not given a heads up that Trump would make those demands during his joint address, and they have no plans to take up a repeal of the law anytime soon. The CHIPS Act passed with some more support from both parties and was signed into law by President Biden in 2022. It allocated billions of dollars in funding to boost production of semiconductors and chips in the United States. It also increased funding for research and development. House Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters yesterday he would wait to see how President Trump handles the legislation when the White House reveals its budget proposal. But some Republican senators that voted for the bill are speaking out.
The CHIPS and Science Act, at least the CHIPS portion, has mostly been implemented. It's been one of the greatest successes of our time.
Generally speaking, I want to bring chip manufacturing here, but if he's got a different way to do it, I'm open-minded.
Do you support a repeal?
I don't think that's likely to happen.
All right, joining us now, the host of Way Too Early, Ali Vitale, White House correspondent for Reuters, Jeff Mason, and MSNBC political analyst, Elise Jordan. So, Ali, they seem a little caught off guard there.
They were caught off guard there, especially because this is a bipartisan bill that was then later being built upon. Just in the last week or so, Trump announcing more investments into the production of semiconductors and chips. So as I was talking yesterday with Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who is someone that backed this bill, but then also was hoping to build upon it in bipartisan fashion during this Congress, she said she spoke with Republican senators who were very flummoxed by this. And you can even see it from the conversations that they're having there on the Hill, the instinctive clapping, and then the wait, what was that? As Republicans are, again, trying to orient themselves within Trump's Washington. But, Jeff, again, this is something that the White House was building on, the investment structure that the CHIPS Act actually created for them just a few years ago.
And as we've already said, it was bipartisan. It's something that both sides have seen as a success. I think politically, it's also kind of another example of all things that were Biden for Trump are bad.
Yeah.
And he doesn't distinguish between things that were just Democratic efforts or just Biden White House efforts, but also something that had support from both sides of the aisle and that has this common goal of bringing chips manufacturing back to the United States, which is an economically positive thing, regardless of who's in the White House.
Sam, how much communication is there at the moment between the White House and Republican members on something like this? Who would have got a heads up? How much pushback is there starting to be from members on the House when they're not happy with something the White House is announcing?
Right. So there is communication, right? They are in touch with Hill constantly, but that doesn't mean it's always constructive or always fruitful. In particular, over the past couple of days and weeks, what we've seen is that Republicans feel like Doge and Elon Musk have just kind of gone off the rails a little bit, that they're making these indiscriminate cuts to programs and to personnel in ways that are affecting their constituents in their districts. And so yesterday, Elon Musk's on the Hill, and he's getting an earful from both House and Senate Republicans, a respectful earful, I should say, about that they need more coordination, that they need to get a heads up when some cut is going to happen. And Musk's response to them is, look, I don't bat 1,000. Like, I can't, not everyone can hit him out of the park. And here's my cell phone number in case you want me to reverse a cut that I've made. Now, of course, that's the most idiotic way to do governance. You should probably have a better plan on the front end before reversing it on the back end. But that's what the system is. And I will just say, and I'll leave it here, the frustration is not just from Republicans on the Hill towards Musk. It's from Trump allies off the Hill towards Musk, because they want to actually reduce the government in a long-standing, comprehensive, and in a way that will stand the test of time. And they believe that Musk is doing this in a way that is actually going to fail because it would be beaten down by courts and then reversed when the next Democratic president comes into office.
Yeah, and you make the point of what's happening on the Hill as Musk physically went there yesterday. Billionaire Elon Musk meeting with Senate Republicans behind closed doors to discuss the sweeping cuts that his Doge team is making across government agencies. During that meeting, senators reportedly told Musk not just the frustrations that you're talking about, Sam, but that his department's aggressive moves to shrink the federal workforce will need a vote at some point on Capitol Hill, which everyone has been saying. Senators explained how Congress could codify those cuts by passing a rescission package, which is an obscure legislative tool. According to NBC News, multiple senators and Musk were surprised to learn there was a viable legislative pathway to making Doge's cuts permanent. Senator Lindsey Graham told reporters Musk was so happy when he heard the news, he pumped his fists and danced. And, credit to my colleagues and friends in the Capitol Hill press corps who said, hey, Elon Musk, if you're giving out your phone number, you want to give it to us, too. I think a lot of us have questions about how this is actually being implemented here, Jeff.
Also, just such an interesting example of government 101 that this top advisor now to President Trump is learning that, there's actually a legislative way to do this. There's a way to do this that's legal, that might actually be permanent, to achieve some of the goals that he's trying to achieve on behalf of the president, but has been doing so far in a way that is not landing well with Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah, there's a legislative branch.
Yeah, well,
it's the power of the purse, right?
And let's talk about the Democrats for a minute, because after James Carville's op-ed saying they should play possum, and then we saw them at the State of the Union, with some dissent in a kind of a slightly weird way. What's the current thinking, Jeff, amongst Democrats on what the strategy is? I know they're hoping that there's overreach. They're hoping that, something happens with Medicaid that spooks voters. But is that a kind of wishful thinking on behalf of the Democrats?
I think
given the polling around the Doge issues in the country still?
Yeah, I think just watching that address, which was not officially a State of the Union, and watching the response from the Democrats underscores the fact that they're not all on the same page and that there isn't really a strategy. There isn't a singular leader. There isn't a singular figurehead. You had some people wearing pink. You had others holding these little paddles. That was
basically the split between the progressive caucus and the centrists.
That's certainly part of it. And I think it's also just a sign of the fact that the party is in the wilderness. They had an opportunity that night to show a little bit of resistance. It's the first time really since President Trump's inauguration that they also had a spotlight, and it just didn't work.
Jonathan Lemire, there's been this conventional wisdom almost from the beginning of the relationship that Donald Trump would sour on Elon Musk, that this town isn't big enough for the two of them, that his ego wouldn't allow him to have so much of the spotlight. And yet he has him stand up in cabinet meetings and hold court. He seems to like having him around. He, of course, invited him to the joint session the other night and they gave him a standing ovation up there in the gallery. What is your sense from your reporting about how this relationship is going and the job he thinks Elon Musk is doing?
No, I'm told right now the relationship is still pretty solid. That Trump is very flattered, remains flattered at Musk's willingness to work for him. This is the world's richest person, and yet he is taking a secondary role to Donald Trump. We know how much Trump respects wealth. He also does think, I'm told, Musk is largely doing a good job. There's been some frustration in Trump's inner circle, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and others, about how Musk is going about doing this. But Trump feels like, and he hasn't agreed with everything, but has largely backed what Musk has been up to this point. And also, I think this is important. Fair or not, Trump views Musk as sort of a heat shield, that he's taking a lot of the criticism, including from Republicans. We heard it yesterday on the Hill, that Trump does therefore not have to take, Elise, that he's sort of provided a little bit of protection. Now, everyone I talk to in the Trump orbit thinks eventually this bromance will probably peter out, whether it's an abrupt firing or simply Musk eventually leaves. I don't think we should expect Musk to be in there all 4 years. But right now, anyway, they think he's doing something useful. But my question to you is, it seems like some of our other Republicans might be starting to disagree.
Well, they're the ones who are having to go back to their districts and to their constituencies and answer for the sweeping draconian cuts, and for there being no notice, and for people to be out on the street and worrying about how they are going to pay their mortgages once their job at the Social Security Administration or at the national, weather, if they're a weather forecaster investor or if they work for the FAA. So there are different answers that constituents are looking for that these congressmen and senators, they don't have ready answers for. And I think that's why the meeting yesterday hopefully was a little bit of a shock and awe for Elon Musk to see the kind of reality that politicians have to deal with for him to actually go through with his sweeping DOGE agenda.